Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777, and this is another video. This is the second video of two videos that I'm going to be uploading this week of me just relaxing after a very stressful day of overdoing inventory at my store. Sorry, my brain is a little fried right now. And I thought I'd do the second video talking about my favorite video game franchise of all time, Castlevania. I'm a big-time Castlevania fan. I played most of the games. In this video, we're not going to be talking about all the bosses in the game. We're just going to be talking about the Castlevania Symphony Night because this one has like most of the Symphony Night / DS ones. Doesn't have all of them for some reason. We're only going to be talking about the ones for Symphony Night. So let's get started. So I say my brain is still fried from the last couple days. Castlevania Symphony Night is not really known as a hard game. It's a very easy game. Even when I played it as a kid, I didn't really die that often. I died maybe like 4 times, and the first time was on this, where is she? This boss right here, and the rest of them, and then the rest of the time it was in like the reverse castle. So we're gonna be basing them based off quality, how well they're designed. We're not gonna be doing any broken stuff. So no Chrysogram, no no Baitlair, no spell, no Tetrasoul, because Tetrasoul just makes a lot of the bosses completely irrelevant. But I will mention those. It's like no overpowered, so just regular swords or weapons, stuff like that. No shield rod breaks and stuff like that. So the first boss we're going to talk about is Dracula. Yeah, Dracula is the first boss of the Castlevania game. Because this Dracula takes place in the end of Rondo of Blood. So this is basically just a reinterpretation of Rondo of Blood, because Symphony Night is a sequel to Rondo of Blood. And honestly, I put him in a C. It's a very bog standard Dracula fight. It stays faithful to Rondo of Blood. I do like the fact that how you do in this Dracula fight depends on what Alucard's starting stats are. So that's actually that's something a lot of people don't know unless they play a lot of Castlevania Symphony Night or are speedrunners and are able to can easily notice. But depending on how fast you beat Dracula, how often you get hit, will depend on Alucard's starting stats. So if you do really well, his stats will be really low, which means you're gonna have a slightly harder time. It's like an harder edge. But if you take a lot of hits, if you get damaged a lot, if you take a really long time to beat him, Alucard's stats will go up, meaning you're gonna have an easier time. And help you out. But for the most part, he just does the same thing. He just teleports, fires some dark fireballs, turns into a monster, doesn't really do anything. It's alright. So, a C he shall go. Next up, Slorga and Gaibon, the first proper boss fight when you play as Alucard. They are found in the alchemic laboratory, and they get another C. You can easily stun lock them. Like, if you continuously hit Slorga, get grabbed by Gaibon, you repeatedly, if you're able to time out, you can literally beat this boss with like no damage. It helps even more if you have the axe, because now you're doing extra damage to Gaibon, and all their moves can be blocked by simply using the leather shield if you find it early in the laboratory. So, but if you go shieldless, it's not that hard, because again, he has the whole gimmick of being stunned every time he's hit. It's a really weird decision. Like I said, Symphony Night, not a hard game. It's not a difficult game. Igarashi designed Symphony Night to be really easy. Like the only noticeable hard Metroidvania games are Circle of the Moon and Order of Ecclesia. Those are like the only real hard Metroidvanias. And you can rarely call Order of Ecclesia a Metroidvania because it's very linear in design. It's very, very linear if you played Order of Ecclesia. And that's actually my favorite Castlevania game of the entire franchise, next to Symphony of Night. Let's see. Next up, we have the Doppelganger. Doppelganger is unique because there's actually 2 Doppelganger fights in Symphony of Night. The first one you fight is in the outer wall, the regular outer wall. And the second time you fight it is actually in the reverse caverns. But they're both the same. They actually got to be. Mainly due to the fact that the second fight is at least kind of hard because of the very cramped space. In both fights, you can actually stun lock him, just like you can with Slorga. But he does have a way of like turning into a bat and charging you, so he can't catch you off guard if you don't know if it's coming. So he can actually so he does have a way to prevent stun locking. However, he is the only boss that I know of. I never really tested it before. He's the only boss I know of that's susceptible to the stopwatch sub-item, which freezes time. So you can get a ton of free hits on him and basically just kill him in like 1-2 clocks. He has most of Alucard's moveset. He does a lot of spells. He turns into a bat. He uses a sword, shield. He has a knife for some long distance damage. He is designed really well. He's designed better than these two, so hence why he's the B. But again, not that hard. There's like maybe only two slightly difficult bosses in the game. But he is designed well. I have to give him that. The next boss is the Hippogriff. You fight the Hippogriff in the Royal Chapel. Hippogriff also gets a B. Again, not a hard boss. I'm gonna stop saying that now. I'm gonna talk about difficulty when I get to the only 2 difficult bosses, which are this guy and what this guy's supposed to be. Trust me, I'll talk about him when I get to him. Hippogriff moves a lot, so you're more likely to get hit in just simple collision. He's very mobile. You can inadvertently kind of stun lock him if he starts using the fire breath attack. Because I don't know what's up with the Hippogriff AI, because sometimes when I fight the Hippogriff, because I still play Symphony of Night every once in a while, he has a habit of constantly doing the fire breath a lot in a row, and it's kind of weird. It's just very, I don't know, it's like, It's AI is a crapshoot. Like, sometimes it'll just stay there the entire time and let you wail on it by just ducking. And sometimes it'll just constantly move. It'll lay eggs. It can do a charge attack that can sometimes catch you off if you're too close if you're trying to do like a challenge run, like a naked challenge run. This Hippogriff is actually kind of difficult if you're doing a naked run, because you got to get like really, really close to it. And even when it does a fire breath, I don't think most of the time it actually it connects with the fist unless you're really, really, really up close to it, which actually makes Hippogriff really, really difficult. But that's a challenge run. Like, a naked run is supposed to be hard because you have no defensive options. You have literally no range. And your main worry is simply collision damage, which since Hippogriff moves a lot, you're going to be dealing with. So he can very much catch you off guard, specifically in a naked run. But I can't really... But again, that's a challenge run. It's not really worth it. We're trying to do just a casual run. If we're doing naked run territories, he'd probably get an A rank. I haven't done enough naked runs to actually do a tier list based off that run. I just know that Hippogriff is slightly harder in that version. More harder than these 3. But yeah, he goes into the B tier. He's designed pretty well. So this actually shows the Doppelganger from Portrait of Ruin. This is kind of my problem with this specific tier list. He didn't put all the bosses in. So this is actually going to be representative of the Lesser Demon, who is the boss of the Long Library. So, Lesser Demon gets a D tier. He doesn't do anything. He's just really there. I mean, I get why there's a boss in the Long Library. It's basically just there to guard the Bat power-up when you eventually get the Mist power-up, and then you do that. Granted, you can sequence break the heck out of Symphony of Night. I've done it plenty of times before. I'm not a speedrunner. I'm not like someone like Jupiter Climb. Go subscribe to Jupiter Climb. He's actually pretty amazing. And also Dragon Blitz. Those are like the two prominent speedrunners for Symphony of Night that I know of. But yeah, the Lesser Demon, he just walks around, does like a lot of spells. He doesn't really do anything. He's really just there. He's weaker than these bosses. Like, it's kind of saying something that you have to go intentionally out of your way to actually let this thing hit you. He has like maybe like one spell that's threatening, which is like I think he actually does like a really, really fast green swipe at you that goes across the screen. But that's maybe it. He flies around a lot. He does summon enemies to turn into a gank fight. And he's also the only boss that will allow you to get the Mudman enemy. If you want to go for like 100% bestiarity, you actually will have to wait until he summons the Mudman in order to actually, before you beat him, because Mudman is like the only area you can fight him in. And it's just designed badly. Like maybe, honestly, if there was like 2 Lesser Demons, maybe. Not to mention he like appears in like the reverse laboratory as like a common enemy. And he instead of spawning like regular enemies, he just spawned himself. It's kind of weird. Kind of trippy. He gets a D boss. Skully, the boss of the regular cavern. Skully gets a B. I do like that Skully is actually very different in presentation, because you actually fight one of Skully's tentacles first in the same arena where you fight the doppelganger in the reverse cavern. Because there's like 2 castles, there's a regular one, and then there's a reverse one. Everything's upside down. Skully is the boss of the regular one. Doppelganger, the second doppelganger, is the boss of the reverse. I just want to clear that up. When you first enter the boss arena, you actually fight a tentacle. The tentacle's not that hard. It's just really stuck in one corner, just going back and forth. It's really just a sitting duck. It doesn't really do any attacks, but then you beat it, you leave, and you enter an area where water starts rising. And since you're playing as Alucard, and if you don't have the symbol of J, which is a snorkel, that lets Alucard actually survive underwater without taking damage, you will take a lot of damage, because Alucard burns through his health when he's underwater. If he's even waist deep in water, he'll be taking a lot of damage. Skully is designed pretty well. There is a cheese spot that's actually kind of hard, difficult, because you have to damage boost behind Skully. Then you literally can't take any more damage. Skully has 3 of the worms that you fought first, and you have to clear them up before actually doing damage to the head and getting rid of the boss. Skully has a bevy of moves that are actually moderately difficult to get rid of. I like the design. I like the presentation. She is actually the first true, genuinely difficult boss for what that's worth in this game. So she gets a B tier. It's like, yeah, she gets a B. She is monstrously difficult in Naked Challenge. I will say this, in my opinion, she would actually get an S tier on the Naked Challenge one. Because you have no range, and she can, and unless you overlevel yourself, she can and will one-shot you. Well, mostly one-shot you, unless you, again, if you overlevel or stuff like that. Next up, we have the Minotaur and Werewolf in the Colosseum. They get an A tier. I love the design. I love the design of this boss and the build-up. When you first enter the Colosseum, where the boss is, you run into Richter. And Richter's like, I'm now lord of this castle. It's like, wait a minute, "You're a Belmont," and then Richter summons the werewolf and Minotaur, and basically sicks them on you. It's like saying, "Go get him!" And they work together. Minotaur is like a slow-moving boss that actually, can hit it hard. But Werewolf is a more mobile boss that will actually, that can actually do some combos and get you into the range for the Minotaur. They have some combo moves that are actually kind of difficult, but that's it. It doesn't get as frank because once you get rid of one, the other one's completely trivialized, because the whole challenge is just from the fact that they have combo moves that are actually kind of difficult, but once you get rid of one, just there. Not to mention, just like Slorga and Gaibon and the Lesser Demon, they do show up in the Reverse Coliseum like as normal enemies. They have slightly more health, but it's not saying much. But I do love the design. They're designed well. They are just a fun boss. I love them. They did give me some challenge when I first played. They actually gave me they actually killed me the first time when I played it when I was a kid. But once I figured out what they did, it became such a challenge of trying to actually see how long I can last against them. Like the first time I actually beat them, I tried to see, can I go like 5 minutes without dying? And I actually challenged myself to see how long I can last against them before dying. And it was actually pretty challenging. Especially if you don't use the leaf stone, because you actually need a leaf stone to get to the Coliseum. Imagine fighting them without the leaf stone. That'd be really, really fun. Malauthus, or the Karassaman. D tier. Here's the problem with this. This is Malauthus is the boss of the Clock Tower. There's one very, very big problem with this boss. Every single time you hit it, it stuns it. It gets stunned. That is horrible design. Like, this thing was harder in Dawn of Sorrow, because in that game, it's not stunned that much. It takes longer for it to get stunned, and its moves come out faster. But it's compensated by the fact that you are actually in a... And also the fact that in that game, when you fight it, it's actually the one guarding the double jump. So you have to fight it without the double jump. But it's benefited by the fact that that boss arena in Dawn is actually bigger. Well, this one is just a small single room. But just the fact that half the time you don't even know what his moves are, because you just hit it once, it stuns for like a couple seconds, and you can follow up with another stun, and you literally can't really see its moveset. It does have some neat tricks if you don't decide not to use the double jump and challenge yourself. It can summon crows and fire them at you, which is pretty challenging to dodge. It has some electrical orbs that can scatter in like a pseudo AoE. It can fire some arrows that go across the screen in random areas. That the only way to actually dodge it is actually standing right in front of it when it's flying. It does have a good moveset, but it's just so... It just backfires so hard by the fact that this thing gets stunned so easily. It's not... If it had slightly more health and it stunned every couple hits so it can actually get like a move off, it would be a solid B tier. But the fact is, any sort of damage can automatically stun it for such a long time is frankly ridiculous. Especially since at this point Karassaman is like theoretically should be like halfway. Like, some of these bosses you can fight in any order. Like, you have to fight Dracula first, and you fight Slorga, Gaibon. Then, the Doppelganger, then the Hippogriff, and then these three are just, you can fight them in, well, these four you can fight in, like, any order you want. Same with, like, these four. Like, these are the only ones you have to fight in order. You can fight the rest of them in just literally any order. This is just pathetic. This is just so pathetic. And the same can be said about the Succubus, but the Succubus is on C. Why is that? The setup for the fight is just crazy. So, the setup for the Succubus boss fight is you actually enter like a very, very out of the way area in the caverns, and then you go into a save room, which is where you save, but you see a discolored save symbol. And you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then you go in, the coffin appears, Alucard sleeps, and he suffers a nightmare where he witnesses his mother's death. So, Alucard's entire character is based around his mother dying, and her using her before she dies, not to basically hate humans and just leave them alone. If they're gonna hit you, just leave them alone. And that was basically the crux of Alucard's character. That's basically his entire character is based around this one traumatic experience. And the nightmare set up like his mother saying, start killing all these people who killed me. And Alucard's like starts wising up. It's like, wait a minute, my mother would never say that. It's like, yeah, of course I would. Come on, kill him, bite his neck. And he wises up like, oh, wait a minute, what kind of creature are you? And then it turns out to be a succubus. Succubus kind of like wants this, like, I'm gonna toy with you. And she's basically designed very similar to the Crosserman. It's just like the Crossman, she does have some good things going for her. She can clone herself. She actually can use her wings as spikes to just basically give you a lot of damage. They do a lot of damage if they hit. She can hit you with a couple spells, but it's still bogged down by the fact that just like the Malauthus, she stuns way too easily. It takes her a little bit more to stun, because it takes her a few hits to get stunned, unlike the Malauthus, but she still gets stunned way too often. Hell, I would have preferred her to not get stunned. That actually would have been a better design. Not to mention when you beat her, Alucard says, I'm gonna leave you in the dream world, and then she kind of suggestively moans / screams. It's kind of trippy. Play Castlevania or just watch the boss fight at the end. It's just very weird. Like, I don't know what the author, what the person who played her went through. Like, just scream like a succubus. It's like, moan screams? I mean, outside of Alucard and Dracula, outside of Alucard, none of the people were like taking this serious. Like, I didn't really like most of. Then, simply like is the game that gave us like, what is a man? Like, what is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets, but enough talk. How about you? Like, it gave us that entire sequence, like the most iconic moment in the Castlevania franchise. But she gets to see for the setup, and the fact she doesn't stun as often as Malauthus. Thank God. Next up is Aurochs. He is the boss of the Aurochs quarters. He gets an A rank. He's well designed. He has 2 phases. His first phase, where he's very, very mobile. He summons a lot of skills to basically attack you. He has very fast-paced moves. He moves ridiculously a lot. If you don't know, and if you can't keep track of what he's specifically gonna do, you're gonna get hit once or twice. He does get some points down for when he transformed into a dinosaur, and it is kind of interesting where when he transforms, and then his moveset gets simplified. He turns into a very slow monster. He has a lot of tells, like he tries to hit you with his hand. He summons fireballs a lot, and the fireballs actually move faster the lower he is on health, so that's something. He also has a laser thing that actually delays in an explosion. That can actually hurt you a lot if you're not helpful. In my opinion, he's probably, if you're going for the naked challenge, he's actually up there with like probably the hardest boss, specifically because he moves very fast. He moves so much, even more than the Hippogriff, so he would probably be immediate S tier. But again, not going by naked challenge, just casual playthrough. He has a lot going for him. I like the setup where it's a gigantic room to make room for his bigger form thing. Yeah, he's actually sitting down, having some tea. You can actually have some fun and sit down at the end of the table while he's just there. And he won't actually start fighting until you actually approach him, so you can just sit down on his chair, on the other chair, and just like, meh. So how's your day? And yeah, so he's very well designed. Love the 2-phase setup. His second phase is a slightly more disappointing. I actually would have liked if he got more moves as he went down in health. I just honestly think that would have been better. Or hell, his first phase getting more attacks. That would have been cool. Let's go with Cerberus. God damn, this is a joke. D tier. No. I'm doing something better. F tier. This thing's a travesty. This thing is so badly designed. Why? All of its moves, literally all of its moves, can be blocked by ducking. I don't know what the author, what Igarashi was smoking when he designed Cerberus. And for a boss that is based off the Guardian of Hell, the fact that you can literally just wail on it just by ducking, because all its moves, it just fires fireballs in like 2 directions. It has for all intents 4 attacks. First one, a regular fireball, goes straight ahead, can be ducked. Its second attack, a bunch of fireballs, can be ducked. Its third attack, he fires a string of fire into the air, can be ducked by just standing right in front of it. And also he jumps, but sometimes he can literally just jump on the platforms because that room has platforms specifically for the death fight. And then you can just wail on him, and there's like nothing he can do about it. He's just so bad. He is so bad. These have bad designs, but at least they have some way of being threatening. This guy has nothing. He has nothing going for him. He has literally nothing. Why is this boss designed like this? Oh, it's so laughable. It is so badly designed. I don't know. I literally don't know what Igarashi was thinking. It's like, let's make a boss that's near the end of the first half of the game. But also, let's have all his moves can be ducked under. Like maybe if he was more mobile. Like you have the Cerberus. Let's compare this Cerberus to the Cerberus from Circle of the Moon. Circle of the Moon Cerberus is the first boss in the game, and guess what? That thing can kill you really, really freaking easily if you don't have either slightly upgrade like any of the cards, like the Fire Whip or any of that. He can kill you really easily because he's mobile. He moves around a lot, has a lot of moves, and also he does, and also has really tells. Like if I was ranking the Circle of the Moon bosses, all Cerberus would probably be S A tier. Like that's how bad this thing is. When Cerberus in another game, which is the first boss, and this is supposed to be like near the end of the first half of the game, so he should be at least moderately difficult. No, there's just no excuse for this thing. There's no excuse for this thing. Good God, he's just embarrassing. It's just so embarrassing. Grand Falloon or Legion. I don't know what the designers were going to like. It's like, oh, here's a demon based off a biblical passage. Let's call him Grand Falloon. Are you on something? Yes, I'm on this sweet kush. Can I have some? Sure. I'm not gonna call him Grand Falloon. That's just a stupid name. Legion. He's an S tier. He is, for all intents and purposes, the last boss fight you should fight before Rick. I just realized I didn't add Richter to the list, but he's not. But Richter's not on it, so I'll just put Risaka here for Richter. Legion, technically, out of all these bosses, before I get to the reverse castle, Legion was actually the one that gave me the most trouble. So what Legion will do is, it's a core wrapped around an entire orb of corpses. And what Legion would do is, as the fight goes on, it would constantly drop corpses onto the ground to basically start to swarm you. And as you get rid of the shell, tentacles, the shells come up and you actually start seeing the core, which are these tentacles. And a neat thing is the lasers, if you don't get the bodies, they will wreck your shit. Like, the reason this one stalled me so much is how Legion works. Because Legion works by the more parts of his shell you break off, the faster he goes. So the more, in essence, he moves faster and more erratic as there's less weight on him. And it also impacts how the lasers he fires work. So, the lasers become more erratic, they become harder to track because he's moving more erratically and faster. So you get a lot of tells, like the ends of the tentacles open up and you see the glow and then you fire them. So you only have like a split second to react to them. And he only really fires one at a time. But it is expertly designed. Not to mention, he does have like an actual second phase if you get rid of the entire shell, where he turns into a flat-out Gradius boss by literally firing a bunch of homing lasers along with the regular lasers at you. Plus the fact he moves really, really fast and sometimes even actually floats out of your way. So even with double jump, you can't hit him. So he becomes a monumentally difficult boss, but you actually have to go out of your way to do it. I actually love that. The fact that he has a very hard version of him, but you have to go out of your way to fight it. But it makes it so rewarding when you actually do beat him with the lasers, with the homing lasers, because they're very, very hard to dodge. They don't do a lot of damage, but they're mainly just there to try and stun lock you enough so that way when it fires the green lasers, you have a much harder time actually avoiding it. And that makes it so rewarding when you finally land that final hit and it dies. It's so rewarding. It took me I never knew that it had a second phase for years after I started playing it. Because honestly, out of all these, when I was a kid, I thought Legion was the easiest boss, but then I heard about it, like what would happen if you actually got rid of the entire shell. I got rid of the entire shell, and it completely curb stomped me. Like, I was not expecting it, and it completely, like, two-shot me. And I was actually over-leveled. I actually went to the reverse castle, got some more gear, and then got it, and it completely two-shot me. It just completely fucked me over. That's how well designed Legion is. Like, and not to mention, Legion's like completely optional. Like, you don't actually have to. What he's guarding is basically the Mormigel, which is basically designed for the Richter fight. But it's completely optional. Like, you don't have to go out of your way to fight him. But it's a very rewarding fight. Richter, sorry, Rusaka. Richter's an A tier. Granted, you need to go to the center of the castle in order to get like the hidden item to allow you to see Shaft's orb that is controlling. But if you fight Richter normally, he's designed well. But he basically just fights like a standard Belmont. Doesn't really get any more basic than that. He does the whip, he does Holy Water, he uses Hydrostorm and Grand Cross. He's very mobile, so he can actually kill you, unless you're like really, really good at figure everything out. He doesn't really have a lot of tells because again, he fights like a Belmont. A lot of the Belmont stuff, they don't really have a lot of tells. Like if you played Portrait of Ruin, you fight Richter there too, and he's the same thing. He has like no tells, which means he can easily kill you if you're not playing very cautiously or you're not using like some kind of exploit in Portrait of Ruin, like dive kicking. Just saying. But yeah, Richter gets an A tier. Now we get to the reverse castle. Akamata. Oh, this one hurts to talk about. D tier. Akamata is just... Akamata is more just a thing of unfortunate circumstances where he's actually pretty well designed. He has a whole gimmick that every time you hit him, he actually starts blurting out poison. The problem is, you fight him in the reverse Aurochs quarters, which means you fight him in a gigantic boss room. Akamata barely moves, and then you stick him in a gigantic arena. Like, this should have been where you fought the original doppelganger. The second doppelganger. Where a small room where you basically had to avoid a lot of stuff. He has a neat move. I mean, he has a neat moveset. He has a neat gimmick of always laying the poison. He can actually stretch you. He can basically... He's very slow, but he has, like, wide-reaching moves. Like, he can grab you. He can do a lot of damage. I don't even know a lot of his moves because he fires some I think he fires some bandages at you. He's just so slow. Like, he has a definite gimmick. It's just, I can't remember. He's, like, probably the most forgettable boss in the game. Because you're stuck in a big area. He's just not moving. The poison gimmick is nice, but it would have been better if he was in a small arena. If he was in a small arena, I probably would have bumped him to B tier. Like, just the size of the arena completely screws him over. The creature. Frankenstein's creature. F tier. You fight him in the reverse outer wall, and the main problem is he only has like 2 moves. Not only does he have 2 moves, but he repeats those 2 moves all the time. He swings his hammer a couple times, laughs about it, and then swings out, and then rolls around a couple times. It's not designed well. And in my opinion, I would still say... I would actually say Frankenstein is the worst designed boss in the game. Even worse than Cerberus, because at least Cerberus has no tail, so if you like get unlucky, he can't actually kill you. It's just, you have to remember the duck. While with Frankenstein, he just has 2 moves, and they're just so obvious. They're a lot of tells. If you had some more moves, like honestly, compare him to, where is he? Compare him to Portrait of Ruin Frankenstein. Because Portrait of Ruin Frankenstein is an S tier. He's probably the single best designed boss in Portrait of Ruin. Unless you're specifically using, like, Clear Skies. Because he's well designed in that game. Like, completely masterfully designed. And it's Lane Day. Like, it's laughable with the creature in Symphony of the Night. It's so embarrassing. It's laughably bad. Like, I can't defend it. I literally can't. I just can't. So up tier he goes. Medusa, C tier. She does have a nice gimmick where she actually has a shield and a sword, more referencing her Greek roots. You fight her in the reverse chapel, otherwise known as the Dark Chapel. Or the Black Chapel. I can't remember if it's Dark Chapel or Black Chapel. She is kind of immobile, but she's stuck in a smaller area, which kind of benefits her more than just like Akamata. If she was in a gigantic area, she would be F tier, because at least Akamata at least has some things if you go out of your way. Well, even with a smaller area, she is still well designed. She does have the shield, which actually blocks all damage. But what makes her put her into C tier is, one, she actually has the same theme as Succubus, which is actually unique. And also the fact that her turning the stone move is actually not blockable unless you have the Medusa shield or the Mirror Cuirass. So you can only, unlike the regular Medusa bosses in Castlevania where, you have to basically stand away from her, if she hits you with that, you're stoned, no matter what, unless you're carrying those 2 specific items, or you turn into mist. where it basically just goes through you. And then if she turns to the stone, she basically hits you immediately with a very, very hard-hitting lightning blast. Trust me, unless you turn into mist, it will hit you. Like, you can immediately turn out of stone and use any equipment you want. It will hit you. It will hurt you a lot. It will hurt you really, really monumentally. And it's designed, and and her stone move is designed after one of the sub-items in the game, the throwing rock, which actually ricochets. So, honestly, if she was more mobile, like, she would have been S tier. Like, no hesitation. Like, the only thing stopping her from reaching any higher is the fact that she's just completely immobile. She just moves so slowly. Like, she has a lot of good things going for her. The Greek aesthetics is unique for any boss fight because it's very, very rare where to put a boss in a Castlevania game and actually have that said boss reference their mythology, like their general mythology. But no, she has Perseus' sword and shield. That's a really cool attention to detail, and that's really badass. I just love that. Death. C tier. So, he suffers the same issue as Succubus and Maleficus. He has two phases. He flinches way too much in his first phase. Like, you hit him, he ricochets, but at least he's balanced by the fact that when you do hit him and he does stun, he moves very far away. You're in like the same size area as like the Succubus fight, but he's very mobile. He does a standard thing of summoning a bunch of scythe. He does a lot of them same movesets. Like if you fought against Death in Circle of the Moon, he does a lot of things. He fires orbs at you to hit you. They're very slow moving. He hits you with spikes. So honestly, if it was just that and he would have been B tier. But then his second phase, where he turns into a lizard, skeletal lizard thing, with two little scythes. And then the quality goes down, where he just stands there and takes it. Like, he swings, but it's such a lazy swing that you get to go out of your way to dodge it. Like, you can just stand there and he'll just dodge, and you can avoid it. If it was just his first phase, it'd be a B tier. If it was just his second phase, F tier. So I'm going to put in like a happy middle ground. Because he does have some going for it. His fight is at least built up because he actually takes a shit at the beginning of the game. It's like, oh, I have all this overpowered stuff. Death's like, nope, psych! So unless you like sequence break, you're gonna have an easy time. It also throws a scythe. Again, you can just stand there and just casually dodge it. It's so pathetically easy. And you fight him in the reverse reverse mine. The mine. Finally, Darkwing Bat. This is the last of the original bosses because the bosses hiding away to Dracula are references to the original Castlevania. He's the boss of the reverse clock tower. He gets a B tier. He's actually pretty well designed. First off, his boss fight is tiny, which benefits him. Second, he's actually puny. Like, he has gigantic wings, but he's actually has a pretty small hitbox. So you actually have to time your shots pretty well to actually hit him. And depending on what weapon you use, it can actually make the boss fight easier or harder because he's just such a narrow thing. So you actually have to time your shots. He's not a big body where you can just hit anywhere. Nah, he's a very, very tiny body where the wings actually not only help you because it helps you keep track of where he is at all times, but also hinder you because the wings can actually throw off your shots. He has a lot of moves. He moves around constantly. He charges you. He curls up his wings and drills you. He actually has a flapping attack where he blows up wind, and if you're unlucky, it's like unblockable, nearly unblockable, and can do some damage. He can basically pick you up and suck your blood. I think he can pick you up and suck your blood. I can't remember what else he does. But it's designed well. I like the gimmick of being a very tiny target for a boss instead of like a big thing your size. Meaning you actually have to time your shots, and using the wings to help you, the gigantic wings to actually help you figure out where he is and help you time your shots. But also the wings can also throw off your shots depending on what weapon you use. Because all the weapons have like different ranges and widths and swing speeds. So this is actually the most creative boss in terms of every single weapon you're going to use is going to actually going to have a different experience because of all the wind-ups and the ranges and widths and all that. So he's a very entertaining boss. You know what? I'm going to bump him up to A tier. I convinced myself, bump him up to A tier because of just the variety of how difficult and how easy he is depending on what you use. Oh boy! Beelzebub. S tier. He is the only boss that still gives me trouble after all this time. So, Beelzebub is in the reverse laboratory. How he fights is he's actually immobile. Like, just the design of the boss is completely really disgusting if you're, like, squeamish. He's basically, like, a half-dead corpse hung up by, like, all these meat hooks in the middle of the room, and he's just there. And he only really has one move, and that he summons flies. But his design is immaculate. So he's basically this gigantic corpse that's as big as the boss arena. Like, he's gigantic. And you, as Alucard, have to continuously damage him. He has like 2,000 health. But here's the thing. Each of his body parts has a set amount of health. So the more you damage him, the more body parts actually fall off. Meaning his hitbox, he's basically as big as I mean, I think I need to actually show you SOTN bosses. Yeah, I actually have my thing locked onto. Let's see, where is he? There it is. Yeah, this is him. This is him. Let me see if I can actually just show. Yeah, Beelzebub Castlevania. Let me just show a picture of him. Yeah, look. This is Yeah, this is Beelzebub. Like, he's huge. He's lit, and look, there's Alucard right here. There's Beelzebub. He's gigantic. He is monstrously gigantic. Biggest, I think, in terms of, like, size scale, he's probably next to the Forgotten One from... He's probably the second largest boss in the game, in the franchise? I think he's only really beaten by the Forgotten One from Lament of Innocence. And Lament of Innocence is gigantic. Like, he's... and I'm not counting Lords of Shadow. Because I know Lords of Shadow has, like, the kaiju fights. But yeah, he is literally frightening. Like, you see the hooks just drag through him, and this is just the final part where here's the full design. So as you hit him, his body parts will actually fall all off, which means his hitbox will get smaller, which means you have to actually go out of your way to find ways to actually do damage to him. And all he does is summon a bunch of flies. The flies deal monstrously amounts of damage. Like, you would think they would do physical damage. No, they deal magic damage, which means you have to have a more, like, a mind build in order to actually resist them. Because just getting hit by once, like, last time I fought him, I was, like, level 45. I had, like, the walk armor, all this high defense. I was, like, 150 defense. I was still taking, like, 100-something damage. Like, you are, like, if you're going with a pure regular defensive build, you're gonna get destroyed. The flies will track you. The flies can, at the wrong time, actually protect Beelzebub as you're jumping, because once you jump, you're kind of at the mercy of the flies and where they go. Sure, you can double jump, and if you have the mist, you can use the mist to dodge them, but then double jumping means you have to course correct, meaning you can actually miss your shots on Beelzebub, and unless you have the power mist, that stalls your direct, which means you have less shots to actually hit him with. That is miraculous design. He is really difficult because he's actually an optional boss. In the reverse castle, you really only have to go against 5 bosses, which are the Bat, Medusa, Death, Akamata, and the Creature. Like every single other boss except for Shaft and Dracula, completely optional. He is really frightening design. He is disgustingly difficult. He's like one of the only 2 actually difficult bosses in the game. The other one is this guy. He is bar none the hardest boss if you're going for a naked run, because the flies can and will one-shot you. Unless you ridiculously over-level yourself, the flies will one-shot you. There is no protecting you. If not one-shotting you, they can and will couple-shot you. Like, unless you speedrun it, then they will one-shot you, because guess what? Again, with no equipment, you're gonna have like piss poor magic damage, and they're gonna do like several hundreds of damage of health. You're gonna need a lot of health healing items. You're gonna need good mind equipment, or if you're feeling sadistic, use regular defense. This thing will kill you. This is the only boss I still die to from time to time, simply because the flies. I get the timing wrong with the flies, and even with the mist, they just completely stall me, and I run out of MP, and then they get me. Beelzebub gets all the praise. Puppet Master. This is actually going to be representative of the fake trio that are found in the Reverse Coliseum. S tier. So the Reverse Trio is basically zombie-vied versions of Richter, Trevor Belmont, Cypher Belnades, and Grant Nasty. They're basically a throwback to Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, which is the game that introduces Alucard, and you basically play as Trevor and Cypher and Grant and Alucard, and they all have separate abilities, and can basically just go air. You can switch between them, and this is basically supposed to be a reference to that game. You fight all 3 at once. They all have different movesets. Trevor will be the most aggressive one. He'll actually kind of pimp walk towards you, use his whip, use knives and holy water, and a bone cross. Grant Nasty will always be on the ceiling, kind of tracking you. He only has one move where he just dives on you, but I think it's the most damaging move. I've never been hit by it before, so I don't really know. And then Cypher saves the distance and basically kind of pelts you with various spells. Like, she'll start with like a fire spell, then she'll do like a homing attack, and if you actually kill the other 2 partners and leave her alive long enough, she'll actually revive them, meaning she can drag the fight on the longest. So basically, it's a very, very hectic battle. It's very well designed. It's balanced by the fact that they all have that only Trevor's really aggressive. The other 2 don't really do a lot in terms of aggression until you actually start damaging them. And with Cypher, and then Grant's just on the ceiling, and his whole thing is you actually have to go out of your way to actually get him. Really well designed. S tier. This guy is Elicor from Order of Ecclesia, but he's representative of Galamoth. Galamoth is the super boss of Symphony of the Night. Galamoth is basically a gigantic, like, Babylonian-looking lizard thing, like a bunch of electricity attack. He has, like, more health than the final boss. So, yeah, he's a super boss. And his difficulty is going to be depending on, 1, if you know what to do. And 2, do you have a specific item in your inventory? So, basically, a lot of Galamoth's attacks are electrical base. And if you have, and there are various circlets across the game that basically heal you for different types of elemental damage. So there's one for fire, there's one for cat, which is basically just limited to like 1 enemy in the game, which is actually in the same area where you fight Galamoth. And then there's the barrel circlet, which absorbs lightning damage. So if you have the barrel circlet, he kind of turns into a joke because that gets rid of like most of his move sets, because now you can just, when he's doing the electric attacks, he can basically just, there you go. You get free health. However, if you don't have the barrel circlet, it's a very difficult boss. You have to manage your MP just right. He has a lot of moves. All the electric moves are basically just get off me moves, and you need to actually know when he's doing it. He's so big that you don't know what move he's actually going to do unless you're paying attention to the hand where his scepter is, because if you don't pay attention to the scepter, he can and will catch you off guard, like very much off guard. and the screen is just big enough that you can only really capture the tip of the scepter, because all his moves actually require the scepter to go just on the edge of the screen. So you have to pay very much attention to where the scepter is going in direction to his body. Like if it's at the top, he'll summon a bunch of electric orbs at you. If he does it to range, he's gonna do like an electric field, AOE field. If he holds it close to his body, he's gonna fire a bunch of wind blasts. But that's like a free shot, because he only does it like to his head area. He has a kick move, and he's for a big boss. He's not as big as Beelzebub. I think he's like slightly smaller than Beelzebub. He's very mobile. He moves a lot. If you have the mist, you're gonna have to use it a lot. He can kick you to get you off you, so he can actually start doing more attacks. He could slam the scepter and can catch you off guard if you're trying to make your way to approach him to attack him again. He does have like an actual weak point where if you actually go around, you can actually stun lock him by hitting him in the face, which is actually kind of a joke. But it's something you actually have to know ahead of time and actually time it just right, because you have to actually go into like the other exit and kind of crouch there to hit him, or turn into a bat and just kind of engage in an aerial battle. Which is actually, I think the aerial battle is supposed to be a reference to Kid Dracula, because I think that's actually how you fight him in that game, because he's like the main villain in Kid Dracula. Overall, he has a lot of moves. He's very well designed. He's a very entertaining boss, and him being an S tier, I wouldn't have it any other way. Shaft B. He's just he's a clusterfuck enemy. He's basically just there. He summons 4 orbs. He moves around a lot. The orbs attack him, but they have such obvious tells. And if you have the mist, again, the mist trivializes things, so I'll just ignore the mist for right now. The only boss you actually need the mist for is Beelzebub and Galamoth. Shaft moves around, he fires his orbs, and he doesn't really do a lot. He's like very pathetically easy. For the penultimate boss, I was expecting more. And again, the game's not easy. I mean, the game's not hard, so take what I can get. At least he's designed good enough for the appetizer that is Dracula. But Dracula, I'm sorry, man. D tier. He suffers the same issue as the creature. He actually has a varied moveset. The problem is he doesn't. It's all in a pattern. It's all in the same pattern over and over again. What he'll do is he'll just stay in the background where you can only hit his. You have to hit his throne. He does a couple swipes at you, and then he'll send like these tentacles that are attached to the throne at you. He'll summon an enemy, like either a Slorga, Gaibon, or the Succubus, and squash it, and then kind of drink the blood. I don't know if that heals him or not. He'll use his again the tentacle things to summon a bunch of triangles to basically attack the fire at you. Then he'll go into the background and fire like a magical circle at you, and then he'll just repeat that. Like I think the moves are actually well designed. The problem is the fact that they come exclusively in a pattern just diminishes them. It's just why is the final boss move set just a static pattern? If the boss, honestly, if the boss varied his attacks, it would be immediately S tier, because at least because the tells are designed beautifully that you won't know what's going to happen until it actually happens, but enough time that you can actually react to it. And that's what I think is good boss design. Like, they give you tells that can allow you to react, but in a way that makes sense. And the fact that his moveset is just a repeat really hinders the creativity of this boss fight. It's just bad. It's still a varied move set, which is more I can say of this, and you have to actually move around and react. And if you do get hit, it hits hard. So, it puts him on D. If I had to say which one was the worst boss, it would be Frankenstein. Best designed boss, Beelzebub, by far. It's just, for such a ingenious for just a simple concept, it's executed ingeniously. It's just really, really well done design for such a simplistic idea. So that is all the bosses of Symphony of Night. If you have any suggestions of where I would put any of the bosses, any other place, actually leave in the comments section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on that bell for notifications. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.